call the meeting to order. Can everybody make sure your microphone is on, please? And then if we can all just stand for the pledge, please. We pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just not.
Well, thanks for being silent. Short moment.
Okay, and a quick roll call. Commissioner Campbell?
Here.
Commissioner Elgeier?
Here.
Commissioner Yoder?
Here.
All present. And for the approval of agenda, I just would ask that if we could add, if someone could add the approval of the meeting minutes from December 2025. And we also do need to do a committee chairman election again. Because somebody got to be chair, Steve, for I think 11 days or something.
It's okay to just, you want to add that right after approval of agenda? Are you good with that?
Yeah, wherever you would like it.
I'll make a motion that we add approval of minutes and election of chairman right under approval of agenda and above declarations of conflicts of interest.
I might suggest also, rather than action items, I don't think we're going to take any action on these and just make those discussion items. I mean,
oh, just
yeah, I don't think we're going to have any votes on any of these things.
so
Or we can leave it.
I think it's just potential. I don't think, I mean, we
That
can certainly change it if you'd like to, Commissioner.
That's fine. No, we can make it action items. It's just, if we don't have any action, I don't want anyone to be disappointed.
Oh, I'm disappointed.
Already. Got that out of the way.
Okay, so did we have a second on the agenda?
I'll second on the motion for the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried, thank you. And then, do we have a motion to approve the committee meeting minutes of December 19th, 2025?
I would move to approve those because they're accurate. Not that I approve everything that I said, but
or remember.
or remember. Yeah. Yeah, in particular, anyways, I'd move we accept those minutes as presented.
Okay.
I'll support it.
All in favor?
Aye.
And so we move on to the election for the committee chairman. Or is there would anybody like to nominate or
Do you want
make
to
a
get
motion
Steve?
for that?
Doesn't matter to me. If you want it, I don't care to have you let you have it either. I have no heartburn whatsoever.
I would do it.
All right, I'll nominate you.
I'll support that.
All in favor of the election of Commissioner Campbell for committee chairman?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Oh, shut.
All yours.
Now I gotta do some more counting.
All yours.
Well, luckily, we get a little break while our Human Resources Director provides a recap. Is that?
Declaration of conflicts of interest first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, any declarations? That would be appropriate here, wouldn't it? Yes. And then public comment. Hearing and seeing none, then we'll move on to action items and again, Jennifer King.
So I didn't see the agenda, but you guys wanted some feedback.
I think there's a copy right over there.
There is, I think I might have put the other ones right outside the door, Jen.
They look okay, Jim? You were just looking at the minutes.
I'm not going to quibble with anything.
Oh, you want to recap the customer service training? So we had trained 18 people. Let's do that. Yes, 18 people went through the customer service training and 11 has signed up for the CPR first aid training that we offered this past year. The feedback that we got from the people who took the customer service training, there was a few questions that we threw out during it. And these were why they thought we should have some kind of a policy. And I sent that to you ahead of time. Most importantly, I think it's because people don't really know where to draw the line. And I think that's what this group here is going to try to do, is to help draw that line so people know when there's a problem, right? Where does it reach the point where it's not just a casual conversation, but now it's a violation, right? We're violating someone's personal space or their ideas, or we're crossing a line into a place where it's maybe considered bullying and not just joking around. So it's a very hard thing to navigate. And it's a personal opinion, I think a lot of times, and perspective, right? So everyone's coming at it from a different perspective. But if we can just set up some guardrails, it might help. You know, and I think some of them are already identified in the personal policy.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, they are. But at least I wanted to provide the feedback that we got from the customer service training. People that attended it, not everyone could, you know, just due to office staffing levels and duties, but I thought 18 was pretty good. And it was all from this building. We didn't have anybody.
Can you just give us an overview of what went on? I mean, did you have a slideshow or?
It was very interactive. So we had one presenter, and she had us work in small groups. So there would be like 2 to 3 people at a table, and she would provide scenarios, different examples, and then they would talk amongst themselves, try to figure out the best scenario, and then they would present it to the group as like a team. So kind of divided up into teams, and they weren't necessarily teams by department. It was just haphazard, everyone was thrown together. So I thought that was good, and that there was a mix. So people got to communicate in small groups to come up with solutions to problems that might very well face in customer service environment. So, and it lasted around 3 hours, I think.
Oh, wow.
Very interactive, and a lot of feedback from the employees, directed by the instructor, who has 40 years of experience doing this stuff. So,
What kind of questions did you find interesting?
I didn't actually get to participate in the trainings.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly, but I could circle back to the instructor.
It's okay.
But it was mostly scenario-based. Elsa, were you one of the attendees? Do you remember?
I did not get to attend, no.
Scenario-based. So,
It's okay.
So somebody comes in and they're confrontational, you know, how would you first handle that? Or that they're, you know, emotional and you don't know why, you know, like what are the ways that you can get to the bottom of the problem, whatever that problem is, so you can help them get out the door and on with their life.
It seems like that there is some line there between inappropriate behavior and unethical behavior. And for this group, I'm not sure how much we want to get into inappropriate behavior, especially since so much of it would fall under, I think you're mostly unionized personnel that you're dealing with. Yeah, for your presentation. Yeah, and we're not, and go ahead, Mr. Guy, if you want. But
No, I tend to agree with you, Commissioner Campbell. It's what I think you're really talking about, And I focused on more the conflict of interest aspect of it in the material that I handed out to you. And in that material, I discuss the difference between what I consider to be objective and subjective conflicts. Generally, an objective conflict is when I have a defined interest, defined financial interest in something that's going to be impacted by voting. Clearly, that's an objective conflict. The other would be where I have, my second cousin once removed happens to be married to somebody who once knew somebody that's involved in the transaction, or it's my best friend who's involved in the transaction, but I'm on the board that's going to review it. Again, that's more of the appearance of impropriety, the more subjective nature, and can you or do you handle those each in the same fashion? I suggest you don't, but a lot of people disagree with that. So it's the same thing with what Jen is talking about. There are plenty of times when a conversation occurs between two employees where one of the participants is going to think that was a perfectly normal exchange, and another is going to think I'm being bullied. That's going to happen. It's inherent in human relationships that sometimes people hear things that aren't intended, they feel things that aren't intended, but that doesn't mean that feeling is any less valid than the other party that thinks it was perfectly normal. So how do you deal with that when you're dealing with an objective feeling rather than an objective occurrence? For example, if I were to say you are a blankety blank, whatever, it's something truly profane and offensive, that's probably an objectively bad behavior on the part of an employee. But if I simply raise my voice to an employee and don't intend any offense and don't address an issue that is like aimed at a class that's protected, like if I were to say, well, all women think that way. If I would say that to you, Gwen, that would be different than me just.
You'd be the wrong person to say that.
I know that. I know that's true. But all I'm saying is that would be an both. It would hit two components. It would be both an objective, essentially an attack or comment about Gwen, and it would also involve a protected class of gender that would not be invoked if I simply just said, well, I don't agree with that, and raised my voice to you.
Right.
That would be a subjective feeling on your part, and you might say, well, I was treated that way because I was female, or I was treated that way for whatever reason, when that was clearly not intended. So those are the things you gotta be thinking about, and I think that's what, as you've described, Jen, with the people that participate in the customer service training, that's where the confusion comes in. That's where the confusion comes in.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think in the one that I took from Grand Traverse County and I guess altered, but tried to personalize for Leelanau County, I don't think we get into those types of
Probably not.
yeah.
And
So-
I didn't either in the material that I prepared. So, but still, it's important to the employees because they want a workplace that they feel comfortable and safe in, and how do you do that?
So as we talk through this, because there is a part here where we define, there's a definition of ethical and unethical behavior. We can look through there and see if that meets what we're looking for in regards to that. If you do, if it's okay, if if you wanted to go through this one, which is really a Grand Traverse County one. And you know, this is not a small B Bible by any means. I like the idea that, I mean, you can call it something I had my hands on, but it should be something when we finish this, something that everybody had their hands on and feels comfortable with. So if we go through what our agenda says, it would start, I think it follows, I didn't get maybe not the right order, but anyways, follows the thought pattern in the one, this draft one, I guess you would call it. Because I'm not, did this one you just provided, I haven't looked through it, is that something was all original, or is that, did that come from?
It was a combination of a lot of sources, but the thing that I wanted to emphasize was when you're talking about conflict of interest, I think it's important to define what are bright line conflict of interest that are clear conflict of interest that either violate a statute or violate the policy itself, and those that are more gray areas that are more subjective and fit that appearance of impropriety standard. The idea is if it violates one of the bright line standards, you can't participate in the decision.
Bright line.
Bright line would be clearly defined.
Okay.
Objective.
I am an employee of a company that's going to benefit by a vote that you make as a board. That's a clear, bright line conflict of interest, and you cannot participate in the decision. And then there are those appearance of impropriety that are not so bright line, that are, I happen to know somebody who will benefit by this decision. That's not a relative, not someone that I have a direct relationship with that is defined in the policy, and that requires disclosure only, not a failure to participate in the decision. And you can also add what we did at our meeting on Tuesday, that if you disclose one of those types of non-bright line conflicts, you can ask to be excused, but that requires a vote of your peers. You can ask to be excused.
And I believe that's in here, actually, that
yes,
that if you're going to abstain, you need a vote of your colleagues to abstain, rather than just when it comes around to say, I abstain.
Right. Unless it's one of those bright line where you absolutely have to, and then, because you wouldn't want to have a situation where, like I said, I work for a company that's going to benefit by the decision that you make. You don't want to have, and I declare a conflict, but you have your peers that say, oh, it's okay that you participate. We don't want that. We want to define things that are absolute, and then those that are more gray area. The gray areas do require a vote of your peers to exclude you. Now, the policy, or the document that Alan did, very good document, by the way.
Thank you, Grand Traverse County.
Yeah, well, that addresses issues that apply to everyone, whether they're a member of a decisional board or not.
Right.
It's like a relationship between Jen and I.
Right.
It's a relationship between me and the commissioners outside of a meeting, that sort of thing. Those ethics can feed into the conflict of interest policy, but it's also separate from it because it doesn't necessarily involve your conduct if you're acting as a member of a public body.
Well, Grand Traverse County blended the two.
Yeah.
And divided the people involved into the different groups that have that would have different outcomes. In particular, if you're an elected official, we can't fire an elected official.
Right.
You can censor them. If it's a department head, that would fall under Jim's, under his, at least the first steps, as I recall, would be totally through Jim, and then there can be an appeal process.
Well, that's another issue we need to talk about. But
Yeah.
That's a separate
So
issue.
let's just start at we got.
So I'd like to say, in context of what you said, what you outlined is what happened in Land Bank or Brownfield, whichever meeting we were in,
Or the Board of Commissioners, yes.
when we dealt with Peninsula Housing. You had no financial interest.
Right.
Yeah,
And you disclosed, we all said, okay, thank you, and that has
Right.
nothing to do with this decision. So we all,
right.
you told us, and let
Well,
us know.
what I
By
would say,
this, I believe that there would probably be a vote on it. You would ask to be
Yes.
abstained,
and we did,
and then a
We did.
vote.
and I would
That
say,
would have cleared the deck.
under our current policy, that situation would not have been clear, as clearly permitted. And what I'm trying to do in what I drafted was to add some clarity to that issue. So,
Yeah, both times something came up. You disclosed, we all voted.
but again, you could define in the policy, you could create a bright line restriction that says, for example, if you have any interest in a nonprofit that is asking for something from the county board, that's a bright line and you can't participate in it. I'm suggesting you shouldn't do that, but you certainly could do that. But the difference is you're just defining the line in a different location.
And as long as the interest is you're going to make money.
Well,
But if you're just interested and you happen to be part of an organization, you're not gaining anything.
Because the problem when you say if you have a connection to a nonprofit or a connection to another organization, you could get to the point where somebody that actually contributes money to a nonprofit would be prohibited from voting on like if I happened to, even if I didn't have any decision-making authority with Peninsula Housing, and I don't anymore, but I did at the time. I was a member of the board of directors. Even if I didn't have any decision authority, but I gave $100 to Peninsula Housing as a contribution, is that a sufficient connection to say, I can't vote on anything that comes before us?
I don't think
There
so.
are some people that would say yes. There are some people that would say yes, and that's where you just need to draw the line. That's all I'm saying is.
So I would say that does not count.
Yeah, well, so would I.
Because let's
but-
say
someone-
something from the Conservancy came before us, and I give every year to the Conservancy, that doesn't mean I can't. We give money to organizations all the time.
Right.
That doesn't mean that we should be excluded for
Yeah.
a decision that's not about my contribution. I'm not going to make any money.
I don't think that the question of being a member of an organization or donating to an organization is what was at the heart of the particular matter then or matters in the future. I do think if you sit on the board of directors of whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit, and that line is getting more vague all the time, if you sit on that board, I think you should recuse yourself. And I don't think it hurts the final outcome. To be honest, it'd just probably be a 6-0-1, and it looks a lot better from the outside looking at us, even though it's the same outcome.
And I'm not saying necessarily that I would disagree with that. I am saying, though, the policy that existed at the time did not require that.
Yeah.
You could make that definition. It's just a question of whether you think that's appropriate or not. I personally don't think it's appropriate, and the only reason is.
Let me clarify, you mean if you're sitting on the board?
Right. And there's no financial interest in particularly if that's the declaration and that's what I said. With Peninsula Housing, I don't garner any form of financial interest in this. If the property is sold, I can't get any money out of that, for example. I had no financial interest whatsoever. I just am a board advisor. And the reason that I think it's not a good idea to do that is it really discourages people then from sitting on nonprofit boards and lending their expertise. And I think it's actually good for us as both appointed and elected officials of the county to participate in such boards, even though there's a chance they may come before one of our elected or appointed boards seeking some form of assistance. But again, that...
I totally agree. So let's say I had time to get involved at the Poor Barn.
Mhm.
And I'd love to be able to do that. I'd love to advocate and work on a project like that. Then if something for the Poor Barn came up, I would envision saying, okay, I just want to announce that I'm very interested and I'm on the board.
Yeah.
And then people vote, and a vote is taken. But I don't think you should be excluded from voting because, yes,
Because
it'll discourage us.
Because then the question becomes, if you say that board membership that has no financial interest is a disqualifying factor, is membership in that organization without being a board member, is
No,
that disqualifying?
It's not. And that's not, I'm not sure why we keep going to that, because frankly, you wouldn't get to vote on anything if it was just a membership or just a donation.
Yeah.
We're talking about if you are a decision maker with a nonprofit,
No, I don't think we should.
then
Just disclose it.
But
disclose it and don't vote. There's no reason, let everyone else vote and just step back,
If
and
you're
it
not-
looks
I
a
don't
lot
agree.
better. And I think if it's a 3-3 vote,
then you got a problem.
you obviously have a controversial issue for which you're going to be blamed for having a bias going into the vote. And honestly, we don't have many of those.
You're right.
I just don't think we need to have that barrier as long as there's no financial gain. I don't see why you can't
And
vote.
the other thing you have to...
Excuse me, I can see that the two that I looked at, Grand Traverse County and the city of Traverse City, both went further into this idea of a conflict of interest than just finances. I mean, if you just go finances, I don't think it deals with what a conflict of interest is in the
Right.
minds of most folks, including myself.
And that's why I say, pick your bright lines that are automatically disqualifying and your more gray areas that are not necessarily disqualifying, that your peers decide whether you should or should not vote. And again, that's based on the notion that if you're elected or appointed to a board, you really do have an obligation to vote unless there's a genuine reason why you shouldn't. And the other thing that I would say too is don't forget that there are some nonprofits that are organized as membership corporations, where as a member, you have the right to vote at the annual meeting and decide policy for that.
That was what I was going to bring
For
up.
that board. So it's not just membership of a board of directors that can, on a nonprofit, that can decide policy or be a decision maker for a nonprofit. So sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for. But I don't disagree with you. There are circumstances where you can define that as one of the bright line, you must recuse yourself instances.
I think that's if you're going to make money.
Well, and that's what you guys got to decide as board members. That's what you have to decide.
I mean, that's what we have now.
And other than that, you bring it up to the board and let there be a vote.
And let there be a vote. I agree. And then honestly, I don't see why recusing yourself is such a detriment to our normal procedures. I just don't see where it's that big a deal.
It's not a big deal, Alan. I think that the issue is, like I said, you want to define those things that by definition should prevent you from voting. And then those things that that your peers should decide whether you should vote or not. You should never be in a position where you can declare yourself without either a policy reason or a vote of your peers to simply say, I'm not going to vote.
I'm with you there. That's not.
But I've seen that many, many times. People say, well, I'm not comfortable with this decision. This is something that I know about and I want to see happen, and I'm just not going to vote. That's wrong.
Right.
That's wrong.
I'm going to tick off my neighbor, so I don't want to vote.
Yes, and I've seen that happen many, many times.
Yeah, that you can't take away from your responsibility just because it's uncomfortable.
Yep.
But if you want to just, we could tear this thing up, I'm fine with that. But we got to get some progress anyways.
Do you want to start with the code of ethics that you prepared, Alan?
Yeah, let's just go through there and take a look at it. The opening paragraph is just kind of says we're going to be good people. I added the last sentence in talking about does not replace the current board policy, which is more what Jen was talking about. And that probably needs, just from after hearing from Jen, that probably needs a discussion by itself too, if you have ideas, but we can handle that in a different forum.
It's going to be a whole separate thing.
Yeah, we should.
Not changes. I would need to.
Yeah, let's make that a separate discussion point.
Yeah.
And just that way we can look through.
What I would say, and I have the same issue myself in the document that I prepared, but this third sentence in there that begins with therefore, and it states the expectations, I think that ought to be extracted out and made the policy itself. The policy is that we expect our employees and elected officials to perform the duties of their office with emphasis on fairness, responsibility to the public. They serve fiscal accountability and transparency. That's the policy. That's the expectation that we want everybody to hit. And then the purpose is defined by everything else in that paragraph. And I don't have any problem with any of the content of that paragraph. I would just make that middle sentence the policy itself.
I can put a question mark on that, and then as we go through this, we can look to see where that might fit in. And as long as it's there, it just starts off more philosophical, and that's why it's sitting there.
Right, and you understand what I'm saying, though, is that I think it's good for a policy to actually state a specific policy, and that's what you'd be doing if you move that to a section above, title that policy, and section and purpose would be section 2, and everything else would follow from that.
All right, guidelines for public officers, it says, and employees. Now, later on, it will explain that if they're union, then most of the requirements will fall under their contract, and we're not going to be able to enforce this on them. And frankly, maybe it doesn't need to be. But anyways, they may want to sign it. I don't know. We'll have to
Actually,
work through that.
most of the collective bargaining agreements, just so you know, have a provision. It's a boilerplate provision that basically says the employer can adopt employment and other policies that apply that aren't in conflict with the collective bargaining agreement. And so it would apply to union employees if there's not something specific in the collective bargaining agreement to the contrary. So,
I didn't see anything.
Okay.
There was no red flags other than, look over there.
Good, thank you.
so just keep that in mind, that unless there's a direct conflict, it would still apply to unionized employees.
Right. To follow up on that later on, I think it says that discipline falls under the contract.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah, they're supposed to abide by it, but if there's no discipline, then it's kind of hard to. Anyways, work for the common good, da-da-da. gotta be some typos. I'm pretty famous for them.
I'll get to those when we get there.
Okay,
I marked some.
good deal. Should you bring your red pen?
The only thing that I would have a problem with in paragraph C is using the language, anything of value which might be interpreted to influence. That's open to so much interpretation. And you make good effort in paragraphs 1 through 4 defining some things that are clearly an influence. But for example, would this apply to, you go to the MAC conference and you go to the vendor table and you take a trinket that one of the vendors, you take it that one of the vendors offers. Does that violate? I would suggest it doesn't, but
It
some
said in here
might.
that doesn't.
Well, but some of those vendors have giveaways that
Yeah.
you win.
Yeah, I want to,
So
I
it's
went
not
to
open to everybody.
I wasn't a public official, but when I was the law firm that I was at, I won a $450 Palm Pilot at a tech conference.
Well, opportunities, benefits, and services that are available on the same conditions
Yep,
as for the general public. You want to add in the attendees at.
yeah,
And
That would cover it.
Take care of it?
yeah, I think so.
My nephew manufactured Palm Pilots. I remember him sending us one. We're like, what is this?
Mhm.
Attendees of county authorized events?
Attendees at conferences,
Okay, just,
I think just attendees at conferences.
okay.
Where are
Yeah,
you adding that? At 1?
Yeah.
just adding it at
C1.
the end,
Okay.
end of item number 1. Yeah, number 3 is not bad at all. It does have a lot of wiggle room, but it's still pretty good. You know, it's one thing that my friend gives me brings a bottle of scotch over at Christmas. It's another thing that he gives me $10,000 to vote on something
Right.
that comes before the board.
So food and refreshments, the $75 number I made up, honestly. The Grand Traverse number was 200. I thought that was a bit much for a lunch or a dinner.
I think the reason that they probably picked the $200 is based on the language that says on a single calendar day. If you go to a conference, they'll tell you that your food, your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner is worth more than $75.
I think we carved that out, though, with attendees at conferences. So
Why don't we just make it 100?
I made that number up, you made that number up, your numbers is made up and as good as mine, so I'm fine with that.
Should we have an exception in there, though? In case somebody gets technical and say, you ate the shrimp at that conference.
Well, the way I look at it, if they give you a $150 bottle of scotch, they gotta drink at least $50. I don't
Sounds
know.
fair to me. Sounds fair to me. I think that
So conferences they're out.
maybe we want to add opportunities, benefits, food and services to paragraph number 1 to make it clear that we contemplate that as well.
Use the same phrasing as 1 and,
No, just add the word food to number, so it would say, number 1 would read opportunities, comma, benefits, comma, food and services that are available in the same condition. Because to me, 4 contemplates the idea of you go out to dinner with
Your insurance
a
agent.
commissioner and I pick up the tab or somebody else picks up the tab and it's $75 for my dinner. That's the kind of thing that contemplates.
I'm actually fine with the way it reads. If I pick up your tab up to $100.
But let's have food. at conferences, and then do the $100.
Well, I think it
And then
It
that
says
just,
all opportunities, benefits, and services. That would include food, I think.
I can tell you why I would say adding food to number one is if you make, the way statutory interpretation would work, if you name something specifically in one section and leave it out in the other, a court's going to say that by leaving it out, you intentionally excluded that and it doesn't apply. So-
I don't care. So,
Well,
I
I think
haven't made a
there's-
note for it.
better safe than sorry.
I'm fine, that's fine. Any problem with D,
Nope.
E? Just let me know when.
I don't have a problem with the concept in E. The language, the way it reads is a little bit possibly problematic.
Tell me about the exception you're thinking that.
No, it's not so much an exception, it's just the way it reads. Not engage in a business transaction which may profit from his or her official position. I know what you're trying to get at. Let me think about that. I know the concept you're getting at, and it's correct and good. I just,
And I can't tell you if I.
I guess what I'm thinking is transactions don't profit. People and businesses profit. So that's the.
Well, the transaction results in a profit.
Yes, that you probably, yes, that's probably what we run. Not engage in a business transaction which may result. So you're really trying to get at which results in a personal profit?
Sure.
Personal profit.
Mm-hmm.
Personal is important.
And
I see what you're saying.
so not engage in a business transaction which results in a personal profit due to his or her official position or authority or vote taken. Do you want to add that?
Well,
Personal
if it's
profit
needed.
due to.
If you take a vote, then it's your position.
Yeah, I guess I can live with that.
Confidential information we could get Congress to kind of roll with that one.
That would be great.
Nice. Okay, we have the one change in E, F, except as otherwise permitted. Related to a business entity in which he or she has a personal or financial. Look okay? F?
Mm-hmm.
Thinking yes, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
G?
So G is, I don't know what that first line seems very open to misinterpretation.
Well, if you're gonna,
Indirect financial interest. Director,
that would probably be if your wife was involved or somehow the money ended up being funneled to you, but not directly for the benefit.
Is it normal that somebody has to leave the room?
I can leave that or not. A lot of places do that. I can go,
It used to be, but it's not as much anymore, is it?
Well, there was a time when, in particular, the MSU Extension Service suggested that if you declared a conflict of interest and you were recused, that you had to leave the room and you couldn't even comment on the issue as a member of the public. I think that goes too far. They kind of took the position that if you were an elected official, you gave up your right to, your First Amendment right to petition government. I think that's a little extreme. I've never agreed with that, even back when that was their best practice recommendation.
You want to change that to would sit in the audience? That would
Which
be
number are we talking about?
And
D, M,
Yeah.
and G.
G.
I'm not sure if sitting up here is necessarily as appropriate as sitting in the audience.
There's no instances I've been involved, it's just the individual shuts up and just pulls their chair back and
Yeah,
doesn't provide any input or feedback.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's enough.
I had, when I was mayor down in Marshall, I had a citizen make an ethics complaint against me because I permitted a fellow council member to sit. He had declared a conflict because his wife worked for the hospital that we were considering on, and I allowed him to speak as a member of the public, and city attorney determined that that was not a conflict.
You want to change to the person would not participate in the discussion or
As
vote?
a commissioner, or as an elected or appointed official,
Right.
but
Or
may
as a voting
participate as
member.
a member of the public under the same restrictions.
I would say if they're going to participate as a member of the public, then they should go sit with the public.
Yeah,
But if
or make their comment during public comment in the same way that
Right.
the public does.
I don't even think they should provide comment. They should just pull the chair back and just let the process play out until the item's over.
You could do it that way. The one,
But
like I said, the problem that you're going to encounter is you're going to potentially have someone argue that you're depriving them of their constitutional right to redress grievance to government. So I didn't have any problem
Yeah,
with
I don't know.
that as the policy. And then if it's challenged, it's challenged. We can deal with it when it's challenged. But I don't think they should participate as a member and then not vote.
correct. Yeah, you've got to make that decision first.
Yes.
Are you in or out?
Right,
As
'cause
far as, what's your role?
'Cause I
Are you a
believe that
commissioner or are you a member of the public?
Right.
And let me give you an example, like with Kids Fishing Day, I didn't have a problem at all staying here as a park commissioner. But because a nonprofit was involved as a fiduciary holder, I asked to be recused and it was fine. But there may have been questions. Now, did we have anyone else here addressing? Oh, we did. We had Charles, but Charles really doesn't know that much about the fish purchases and stuff like that. So anyways, there may be questions that me as a member of the public or even a interested party, if you will, can answer. But I shouldn't be answering those from up here if I'm already recused. If I'm recusing myself, I should probably sit at the desk, which would be appropriate. And then you guys could ask questions or whoever is up here anyways.
That's why if you were to combine your thoughts with Steve's, it would be that the commissioner must recuse himself and refrain from participating in the discussion as a member of the board.
But, and I would go a step further and say, if you're going to participate in the discussion, you need to separate yourself from the board. Just so folks in the public understand that's just to make that distinction.
Because you're right about the only time that a person would be permitted to participate in the discussion as if they were acting like a department head or a applicant that was answering questions of the board. They wouldn't be able to just participate as a citizen other than during public comment. Because you don't have citizen discussion during the debate on a action item.
So if recused, the person would not participate in discussion or vote, but would not participate in discussion or vote. And then you need another sentence almost that says, as a commissioner. I'm sorry, that's what was missing. And then if the person does want to participate in the discussion, should be in the audience or not at their commissioner seat.
Yeah, and you may
Or if
say
you want to make
something.
a comment, they would do it as a public comment.
Yeah.
So you're saying
Yeah.
that we can engage them? What you just said is we can engage them in the discussion.
Not while they're sitting here, though.
Right.
After they're already recused
Well,
and they're in the.
Gwen's struggling with the same thing that I am, because you almost have to define under what circumstances could a commissioner participate in the discussion, and I think what you're really saying is if the commissioner has information that's necessary or helpful to the decision of the board, they can be asked questions by the board chair, for example, for the benefit of the entire. Like for example, you could say, if it was an issue that you had to recuse yourself, Gwen could say, would the chair ask, Commissioner Campbell, as a representative of Fishing Day, that this question.
Yep.
And the chair could decide whether that question was appropriate or not. That would be a way to deal with the kind of thing to address both Gwen's issue and Alan's issue.
So in addition to that, could he, when public comment comes along, go out and make public comment from that table?
He could.
So then you've got two
From
kinds of
this table?
participation
Or,
from there.
yeah, like public comment, I'm sorry.
So then that's two ways they
But I
can be
don't know
engaged.
that you definitely need anything in this policy to permit that, because you already have a policy that permits public comment. And a commissioner could, in theory, say, I have to recuse myself. This is a bright line recusal. When this item comes up, or I would like to address you now as a member of the public about this issue that I must recuse myself on. Really, the hard part comes when it's not a bright line recusal, and you have to vote to determine whether the person should sit, because that won't sit or not, because then that would conceivably not come until later when the item is discussed. But on our agenda, those determinations are made early on. They're made before there's any discussion or any public comment. So it would work to say, I'd like to recuse myself. I don't have a bright line. It's not a bright line recusal, but I think it implicates the appearance of impropriety. I'd like you to vote to recuse myself, and if you do, I would like to address the board as a member of the public. I think that's perfectly reasonable. I don't know how you would.
Don't they then have to wait until public comment
Yes,
to do
they'd have to
that?
wait till public comment for that item. But again, it would be the same. It would occur at the same time that every other member of the public does it, and they don't do it from their seat.
Right.
That was the mistake I made as mayor, is I allowed him to sit at his seat, and there were members of the public that thought that elevated his comment to a greater level of importance. I don't think so, because
It's no big deal to go over there and sit, though.
No, it isn't, and that's probably what should have happened.
Yeah. So do we have those two things here, that if you choose to, if you are recused or choose to, any public comment will be made from the public comment table. Question you can answer questions from the chair, and you can answer questions from the chair.
I like the point where, I'm not, I think, I can't remember which one you brought out, but anyway, no, anyways, that they're not sitting there to lobby for whatever it is they've recused themselves, but they can be asked questions. We can direct questions to the board chair, who can forward those to the person who has been recused.
Yeah, but if you're sitting there doing public comment, you're probably lobbying.
I'm not calling it public comment. I mean, public comment's a different thing. I mean, that's either right away or later on. I don't
Well,
think,
that's what I'm talking about. That's when they have to do it.
you're talking about before the meeting.
Yeah. Before or, yeah.
But not during, because
Right.
part of this discussion
No,
was
you gotta
about
do
what
it when
to do.
everybody else does it.
Oh,
Right, but Alan's talking about when there's questions that come up during the meeting. I think that's what you're referring to.
That's.
So-
Well, I'm
where-
talking about both.
Yeah,
I
and
think we have to define both.
Right, well, I think Alan agrees that if there's public comment, they need to be over there.
Yes.
But if there's questions, they can, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're saying you can sit here, but questions come at the discretion of the chair.
you can't sit here, you have to
Oh,
go out
you're
there.
telling them, okay.
No, if the chair asks you a question and you're sitting here. and
But I've
you
recused
yourself.
myself. And I should be answering it not as a commissioner with the authority that this position brings, but as a member of the general public or a member of the organization bringing the event to the
Then if
council.
you're going to go to that level, then I think what you need to do is say that the commissioner will leave the dais and join the public. That way you're not in a situation where a
Creates
question comes
confusion.
up and you have, oh, wait, let me go sit in the public.
Yeah.
And then I'll answer your question. That'll look really awkward and kind of silly.
Well, they can
Unless
go
you
sit
make
there.
up your mind to be bummed through the whole thing, then it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, but but one thing you don't want to do is sit there and then a commissioner says, well, I really need to, before I
Yeah.
vote, I need to know X.
Right.
Would the chair ask Commissioner Campbell that question?
Sure.
And you say, I'm not going to answer it. You don't want to do that.
Right,
So
or
I-
take
I'd
the walk of
say,
shame out to
Just have no-
the.
when the
Couldn't we
item
just go
comes,
sit at the
when the
table
item
like
comes up,
everybody else does?
Right, that's what
sit
I
in the
think.
audience,
No,
not at the table.
Well,
Not at the table.
start off in the audience.
Start off at the audience and then they can answer a question, come up to the table to answer.
If
You don't have to put that in the
commissioners-
policy. That's
pose-
too much detail.
if
That's how it
commission-
would work.
If commissioners have questions, they pose those to the chair.
Yeah.
The chair says, would you please approach?
Yeah, because that's what we do
And
right
then-
now. That's what
and
we do
then
right now
that
for
individual
even
would
staff
approach.
members.
No, if the sheriff comes up, he sits there and we ask him questions.
When it's his presentation.
Yeah,
But that's
But
not,
if
but
it's-
this is
but if
not
it's
necessarily.
outside of that scope of his
Right.
presentation, it's at the discretion of the chair,
yeah,
upon the request of commissioners.
Yeah,
yeah.
and there are
So
plenty of
that's-
times when an item comes
We're
up
missing
before,
something here.
when an item comes up before the board, where the person that has the answer to the question is sitting in the audience, a staff member or something like that. They're not making a presentation. They just happen to be here. Can you answer that question? And that's how they would be treated.
So then what you're saying, you guys are saying though, is if you're recusing yourself, you've got to get up and sit out there
Yeah.
instead of just
I mean-
putting your chair back.
I mean, if that's Alan's prerogative, then yeah, because it gets confusing to have one or the other, and if you're not going to give public comment, you can stay here, but if you give,
That was
so.
But I don't
originally
agree-
what I thought,
I
but I
don't-
think Jim brings some, I'm sorry.
I don't agree that we have to, if we're recused, we have to go sit out there.
Well,
We can sit here
I
and
think
keep our
it's a
mouth
good
shut.
idea to do that because of the possibility they may be asked a question. And then it eliminates the awkwardness of, oh, okay, yes, maybe I can answer a question. And then you walk out and have that delay. It just, I don't know.
I agreed with you about,
If I'm told I have to go sit out there, I'm going to the bathroom.
Yeah, well, you can do that too.
maybe I'll recuse myself a
More
few
often.
times during these meetings.
First, we need a vote, Alan.
Yeah, shucks, probably be too late. But I agreed with the idea that you should be able to sit here and be mute until, I think it was Jim who said, well, then what happens if you're in a position where you need to answer a question for everybody? then it becomes an awkward
And,
situation.
and it looks more like you're being asked the question as a commissioner than as a member of the public or the nonprofit or whoever that you're responding for. It eliminates any appearance that you're participating as a commissioner if you move to the audience during a vote where you've recused yourself.
All right, guys.
I agree with you, Glenn, but for the sake of cleaning it up, it makes sense to leave. Because I think it is a lot too, but for the sake of a clean, yeah.
Let's,
We know how to be good, but okay.
Some people don't like it.
let's move to your other question, which was about making public comment before as a commissioner.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's always inherent with our position up here, that we could walk out and make a public comment during public comment. I imagine it's awkward.
If you're going to be, that would just be if you were going to be recused.
Right.
And remember, we've set up appropriately a time to make those determinations before there's any discussion or voting on a substantive matter. We make those determinations early in the meeting, and that'd facilitate that situation. And during that, when either you must recuse yourself because it's a bright line recusal, or your peers vote a recusal, you could say, when that item comes up, or I do intend to speak to the board as a citizen during public comment, and I'll move to the audience when the time comes. You could say that.
That work for you?
Sure.
Let's clear up that question about speaking during public comment. I've been recused, so I shouldn't speak as a commissioner. But I want to speak. During public comment, can I walk out here during public comment and say, well, today I'm not a commissioner? Remember when Richard Lewis walked away from his administrator position to walk out here in the hiring of Kathy? And I don't know. I mean, I throw that out there. I can't imagine I would ever do that, but
I think only if you've declared a requirement to recuse yourself, and to address the issue regarding Mr. Lewis or me in the future. Item G does say, if you're participating to recommend, the county administrator shall disclose the full nature of an interest.
right. I was only referring to us as commissioners at that particular.
But
then you're
paragraph
right.
G does apply to me.
Okay.
It does apply to me in that situation. I don't think the current policy would apply to me as county administrator.
Right. Do we not address it? And it'd be kind of hard to stop someone if they were a commissioner and they said.
I think the only way you could really address it would be where it would be easily addressed, would be to say you can't do it. And I personally don't support that. As I said, I think that it deprives the commissioner of their right to
Their First
address
Amendment right.
address government on an issue that impacts them. And I don't think you give up that right when you are elected to an office or appointed to an office. I don't think you give up that right. I would use it in my personal case. I'd use it very sparingly. I would very seldom do anything like that.
Because I would personally, I feel like if I were in a position like that, I wouldn't even feel it be appropriate that I give public comment, because I would know how to sway my colleagues, because I know them, I work with them and all that kind of stuff. But to the legality part of it, you know that better than me, and I'm not, I don't want to get us in trouble with that either, where, we
Well, maybe
get
that's
ourselves in
something.
trouble from that.
That's something that would be worth a little bit more of a legal research on, and perhaps a referral to legal counsel.
I don't know, but that's me personally, but I don't want to go against the law.
I can guarantee you that you'll have commissioners now or in the future that are going to say, I do not give up my right to redress and address government when I have get elected.
And it's a fair argument, so I don't,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not gonna die on that hill, but.
If upon legal advice that goes one way or the other, we can just add that in here.
Yes,
If it's
I
a
would-
gray area, we can just leave it out.
I made a note to just get feedback from legal on that.
Okay. Not engage or accept private employment or render services for private interest when such employment or service is incompatible or in conflict with the proper discharge of official duties, So, people have questions on that? I believe that was taken verbatim from the Grand
I
Traverse.
don't have a problem with age. I do have a
that's
problem with
pretty
I.
Not engage in harassment or harassing behavior of any other person having dealings with the county. This is your
Yeah,
discretion.
I can't support that as written. It's just too broad.
Yeah.
It's too broad and one person's harassment is another person's normal behavior.
Yep.
And it's just way too broad.
Yep.
I can't support that. I would, if I were to vote, it would be to remove that section in its entirety.
But how is that even, I mean, that doesn't even pertain to a conflict of interest, does it? That's
Well,
more,
this is
should go with
an
something else.
ethics, this is
Oh,
an ethics
okay, that makes sense.
guideline.
Okay.
And yes, you should not, as a county, and I'm not suggesting that as a county employer should be permitted to harass somebody.
No, but
It's
way too open-ended.
It's just too, not so much open-ended, but it's too subjective.
Yes,
It's too
It is.
subjective.
it is, absolutely.
Yeah, and this is under the guidelines part, so.
And the other problem that you're going to have too is as members of a public body, you have certain immunities. You can, it's called legislative immunity. You can do and say things during a meeting that you couldn't do or say in an employment setting, for example. So that becomes a problem. If somebody's going to say, you harassed me because of your response during a discussion on an item,
Yeah.
you know, that I presented to the Board of Commissioners.
Can we take this out?
I would recommend that it be taken out and perhaps rewritten or.
Jen, if you would refresh me on policies we have, we have certain policies already.
There is
The bullying policy, or not bullying, there is, what do you call those?
Anti-retaliation?
Anti-retaliation.
Those are-
You're better at those. If Jen could just,
those policies they're generally based upon a statutory violation. The Whistleblowers Protection Act is what the anti-retaliation policy is based on. The harassment and policies are based upon the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. That that you cannot harass somebody because of a protected class status, gender, race, that sort of thing.
So they're a
Please,
little
Jen.
bit more restrictive, like he's saying, so they're going to be specific to those protected classes. And they do touch a lot of employees, but it's certainly not all. The only problem when you say bullying or harassment is people who, like, respected related, and that's hard.
Hard to
And that's
define.
why trained people get involved in investigations because of those kinds of things. So I feel like that's part of my job, is to understand the harassment line and to be able to navigate the different perspectives coming at it. So I don't know if we need it in here, because it's already part of our practice.
right, of your non-employee, or is it, I don't know to what class of county and associated employees, non-employees, commission members, things like that, they apply.
Yes, I guess it would only apply to employees that are
Not
engaging
appointed.
in those types of retaliation or.
I agree
I guess
that,
you could have it in here because it's related to board members that are appointed or elected, but. who's gonna enforce that? How are they gonna judge it? You know, you kind of need to have like one set of standards,
Right.
and who is that? You know,
Right.
because I have no control over those.
Well, later on, within the policy, it tells where complaints go and how they're adjudicated,
Yep.
or for lack of a better. But the question is, can we lighten that to cover, not lighten, I guess, tighten that to cover certain things that are really pretty obvious? Is there wording that you might come up with beyond harassment? I know has a legal standard, just in case
Just
we
write
get
down,
a
you have to be
committee,
nice.
something along those. Well, but let's say
You
you get
must
a.
drink your coffee before you come. So you're in a good mood.
Let's say you get a planning commission member who really stands up and physically threatens someone. Right now, there's nothing without this.
If they physically threaten somebody, they would be
That's
subject
illegal.
to criminal arrest
Sure.
for assault.
But
That's happened.
And I guess we can remove them for that, but it'd be nice to, I don't know, I just feel like I hate to abandon the whole thought rather than come up with something that isn't that doesn't put us in jeopardy as far as.
If you were going to if you want to have something like this in here, you would, I think you would say something like not engage in illegal harassment. That makes the definition, that would tie the definition to a legal definition, a legal standard of harassment, where it violates the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act regarding sexual harassment or discrimination based upon a protected class. Something that ties it directly to a legal standard rather than the recipient was offended. That is just, that is a way too slippery.
No, we're not going there. However, it would require, I mean, if you really did feel that someone had crossed that line, then it's not our job. It's actually an investigation from the sheriff's office. So I'm fine with that.
If it addresses a criminal. So I would say not engage in behavior. Eliminate, first of all, what's the difference between harassment and harassing behavior?
Well,
I would say they're the same thing.
okay, illegal harassment.
I would say not engage in behavior that violates a statutory standard or something more general. Not engage in behavior that violates the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act or a similar statutory standard, something like that.
Statutory standards?
Yeah.
Could it be just statutory standards?
Because the real problem with something like this is not so much, it doesn't give any indication. It really violates the due process rights of the accused because it doesn't give them any standard to say, this is how I know I violated this policy. That's the real problem. It violates the due process of the accused.
We want to tie bar to something illegal, to be more.
That violates due process of the accused.
Not due process of the accused, but violates.
Not engage in but I'm.
Why can't you just say not engage in illegal harassment?
Yeah, you could do that.
Just keep it simple.
Yeah,
I like it.
I like it.
The only
That covers it.
I would say illegal discrimination or harassment.
Gonna
because
quit circling that.
I would say discrimination or harassment because there is a distinction in the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act between discrimination and harassment.
Okay, so what are we saying?
Not
here?
engage in any illegal discrimination or harassment.
Okay.
That'd be my vote, just to keep it simple rather than more words.
Illegal harassment or discrimination. Okay. Respect the privacy of employees. Do we have a policy already in place on this? I have few policies for employees, but I don't think we have one for public officials as far as the privacy of employees. Isn't there something in there in what, our non-union policy about records?
I'm trying to recall, I don't have one in front of me right now,
A policy regarding, like, the release of public
Yeah.
records. There is a state statute. It's the Bullard-Plawecki Employee Right to Know Act says you cannot release an employee record without first disclosing the request to release the record to the employee, whether they're currently or formerly employed.
I believe we have something in our
Well,
non-union
whether we do or
policy.
not, we're bound by that statute.
We are, I guess we're bound in a way that we could prosecute for it, but again, I'm talking about through this being able to censor or to even remove appointed officials from boards and such as that if they violate this.
I would say, I would leave it in, but I would delete the words for a business reason, because that confuses, and you're just saying shall be shared consistent with applicable law.
County, for county needs?
I'm talking about paragraph J.
Yeah, will be used as necessary.
No, just
Employee
eliminate
records will
for
be used
business
only,
reasons. You're just
only
saying,
as necessary for county business needs?
no, I would just say,
He's in the next sentence.
Consistent with applicable law. So leave out all the business needs stuff.
yeah.
Oh, I see what you, now we can say is necessary for county business needs. Does that help in the first one sentence? Or everyone figure?
I think we
No,
eliminate the
because that would lead to a misinterpretation of the Bullard-Plawecki Act, because I could request someone's records, whether it has a county business need or not. Any employee can request the records. The act just requires you give notice to the employee.
So employee records will be used only as necessary, consistent with applicable law.
I think that would be, or it would be released only, used and released.
Okay.
I think one of the, as I look at why this was there and why other places use it, I think one thing is so that people don't, what is that when you, like for stalking or such as that. How you prove that, I don't know, but if someone doesn't have a county reason for looking up records of other employees, looking up and has access only through their county employment,
Right.
that to me kind of crosses the line.
That does get handled by both the Bullard-Plawecki and the Freedom of Information Act, because we can redact things like addresses, telephone numbers, email addresses, things like that don't relate to a legitimate county. The Freedom of Information Act really covers that directly.
Well, what I'm saying is that if someone has access to this information, they're not going through the Freedom of Information Act.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
But that is the responsibility of the people in records management. Sorry, I just
And,
jumped in there.
well,
I want to hear that.
I think what Alan's getting at is a situation where somebody may have access to it, whether it's legitimate access or not, and they use that access to assist themselves or someone else with stalking or harassing a county employee. I think that would, two things. That would be a criminal act, and it would be subject to, the person would be subject to discipline for that. But it would, the way we've revised paragraph J, that would still apply. Employee records can be used and released only as consistent with applicable law, and that would be inconsistent with the law to access records for the purpose of stalking an employee or assisting someone else in doing so. That would be contrary to applicable law. So.
All right, well, that's fine.
So what are we doing with that?
Changing it to employee records will be used
And released.
or released,
I
whatever.
thought we were on K.
Not J.
we're still on J?
We're moving right there,
Oh, we're
though.
still on J. Okay.
Slowly.
Okay, I thought we'd gone
Well, I'm
past
glad
J.
we're spending this time, really. It is important.
I would say used or released.
Or released as
Only as applicable.
Consistent
with applicable.
with
laws.
applicable law.
Yeah.
Employee, and then we're gonna take out business for, before
Right.
reasons in
Mhm.
the second sentence of J. And we are on K. Okay?
Good.
Uh-huh.
How come I crossed out the entire middle line and you didn't?
Because some of that stays. Employee records will be used or released only as consistent with applicable law. I think. I don't think we crossed that whole thing out.
The whole middle line is crossed out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Is
the
it?
whole middle
Yeah.
line is gone.
it does get all crossed out.
All right.
Business
Then
needs,
employee
employee
information
information.
shall only be shared.
Shall be only used and released as necessary, consistent with applicable law.
I don't have any problem with paragraph K.
Or is allowed by.
Be used and released as necessary, consistent with applicable law.
Would we identify who the proper authority should be?
You're on K now?
Everybody go to K?
Yep.
Jen,
Maintain security for.
Jen just asked the question on
That's
who
it.
the proper authority would be.
Oh,
Okay.
That's a good question.
I would think the administrator or the sheriffs. Both of those two seem like they would be.
You shouldn't, no, it should be,
Well, probably start with elected official, report to, if it's someone who works in the Register of Deeds, report to the Register of Deeds, and she can pass it up the chain. Does that sound?
well, you should have one person that is responsible to take those complaints and deal with them.
Wouldn't that be you?
Because
I'm just saying we should identify.
Yeah, I know, I'm fine. Yeah, no, it's good talk.
I would suggest the county administrator should be responsible and is responsible for, the maintenance and misuse or appropriation of county property.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I would disagree with that as far as just an elected official.
He's not
Like-
elected.
No,
I know, but in the case of elected officials' offices, in particular, I mean, should someone in the sheriff's, should a deputy report that to the sheriff or to the administrator?
Administrator. Because they're his employees. Sheriff, and the sheriff's elected.
That's why I
But
suggest you report it to
the reason-
the administrator or the elected official.
the reason that I say that is the county property is owned by the county, not the elected officials.
Right.
It's owned by the county, and the elected officials don't have legal possession or control of that property. They use it consistent with county policy.
Seems like it would go to you, county administrator. He's in charge of the
And
building.
I can see where the sheriff would say, no, that's my employee and my responsibility.
You're right, it is his employee, but the property is not the sheriff's property.
It is, but the act is by one of his employees.
Sure. And the first thing that I would do would be to talk to the sheriff about his employee.
Absolutely.
And if it arises to a criminal charge, which it very well may, it doesn't matter what I think. The sheriff's going to investigate that as a criminal matter, and he doesn't need my permission to do
Sure,
so.
he would.
And this policy wouldn't either can't require or prohibit him from doing so.
What do you say?
I think it should be county administrator, because he's yeah, the board owns the property, so.
Yeah, he runs the place.
You know, I lose these 2-to-1 votes all the time at home, and it's just me and my wife. So,
Isn't it crazy how you lose 2-to-1 votes to your wife? I agree, Helen, that's tough.
maintain security for
Same
county
thing happens to me.
information.
It ensures a long marriage.
If you're smart, it does.
I like L. It's consistent with the county's Freedom of Information Act policy. In fact, I would add something that says records can be released subject to the county's Freedom of Information policy.
Well, it says and county policy, so
Mm-hmm.
state laws, state regulations, and county policy.
Yeah.
M, if everyone's set on L.
Yep.
Okay. There may be other policy. I do know we did just recently pass.
The other thing, all I would say under the last sentence of the, what's the one?
L.
M,
Oh,
is to say, release of county-owned public information shall be allowed unless permitted by state or federal law. Because it shouldn't be released if restricted by state or federal law. It's just whether it's permitted by state or federal law.
Mm-hmm.
You okay with that?
I like the word required. We're required to release it unless restricted. It's not a gray area. We get a FOIA request that is proper. We're required to release it. So,
That's why I say,
what was the word you said? What was that word?
permitted.
Shall be allowed unless,
It's going to be allowed
Mhm.
unless the state or federal law says we can't.
It should say, it should be allowed if permitted by state or federal law.
well, it says it's allowed. It doesn't say we have to. I say release of county-owned public information shall be released unless restricted. I don't want this to make it sound like we have a say in.
I see your point, okay.
Because we have to we have to.
If you're going to
release
approach it that way, I would say the way to do it, release of county-owned public information shall be governed by applicable state or federal law. Because,
I'm fine with that. I just didn't want it to make it sound like there was a gray area there.
yeah, because the laws would both prohibit permit and prevent release in certain cases.
Everybody happy with that?
Governed.
Governed by?
Applicable state or federal law.
I just,
Number N, I think you're going to have to say unless expressly authorized by the county clerk, because Board of Commissioners could not authorize the use of the seal. the clerk is the custodian of the county seal. I can't authorize somebody to use it. I can be authorized by the clerk to use it in certain circumstances, or an employee can be authorized, but it's the clerk that has that authority, not any other elected official.
We gotta call Grand Traverse County up and straighten them up on their policy. I'm fine with that.
When did they adopt this? This might be 20 years old, who knows?
Because I
Oh, is it?
believe.
Well, the city of Traverse City was very recent. They passed an ordinance that has gotta be, I can't believe they put it on a ballot.
Well, cities can do that
Sure.
under the Home Rule City Act.
So
that needs
what
to
are
read
we saying,
different
unless expressly authorized by the county clerk? And get rid of all the others?
Well, in some instances, for example, the Register of Deeds does have a county seal that the Register of Deeds uses. So let me think about that.
County clerk or authorized county elected official?
Yeah.
Our seal is a circuit court seal.
Isn't there also a separate county seal itself? Because you don't.
We have the county logo, but we don't have a seal.
Really?
Our seal says circuit court.
What about like when you are certifying a county record, for example, certifying it says the county circuit court?
I can go.
No, I take your word for it. I take your word for it.
It is what it says. It says Leelanau County Clerk, and then there's the emblem that they have in it, and it says 15th Circuit Court.
So it kind of functions as both a court seal and a clerk seal. That's fine. But I think the Register of Deeds has a seal.
They
They have their own seal. I don't know if any other county official seals or certifies documents.
I don't think that I've ever seen anything from the prosecutor's office. Those are the only ones I can think of.
I don't know if there's state law that applies or we just kind of made this up, but as far as we going along. And maybe we need a county seal, who knows? Why can't we just leave that out? I don't know who else would have access to it. I mean.
Well, like I said, the only official that I know that I can think of that can certify a county record is the county clerk. And the county clerk can delegate the use of that seal, but nobody else can.
Well, let's leave it at clerk and then we'll clean it up if need be later.
I could say, to clean it up, you could say county clerk or other county official authorized by law.
Or other authorized county. I'm sure it's elected official.
It would have to be, I would think.
Yeah.
I would say county clerk or other elected county official authorized by law.
Well, if I say authorized, I think that covers it.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have to say elected county official?
I think so, because I sure don't want to authorize anybody to use the county seal. I would not do that.
Ask Michelle that one too. She's probably got an answer as opposed to one. An employee or elected or appointed official may express personal views with respect to public issues.
You got too many ors in there.
Yeah, it should be an employee, comma, elected, comma, or appointed official may express personal views with respect to public issues.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Employee or elected official.
So, and
Yeah, a lot of he and she's, I'd like to get rid of some of those.
Yeah, you're welcome to switch that part. I just wanted to draw attention to the fact that this can be kind of a gray area. If you're representing yourself as an individual on a personal account and you're talking about things from that personal perspective, that's fine. But some people have insider information, we'll say, because they work in a certain department. So they might be sharing or expressing views that could be coming from a place that has more information that shouldn't be shared with everyone. So this is where it kind of crosses the line. Yes, you're an individual, but can you comment on county business when it could be detrimental to someone in a different department or another employee because of your views, because you might know certain things? It's just gray. It's a touchy area.
Yeah.
Yes, if you keep it totally personal and totally out of your county knowledge, then fine.
That's where it specifically said the expression of personal views with respect to public issues. That's the key word in that first sentence. Because what you're talking about, information that is for a period of time confidential or not final, or subject to non-disclosure for some other reason, would not be public. Would not be public. You should probably say with respect to public information or issues. Then that's permitted. You can't. There actually is a substantial body of federal case law on this issue that you cannot terminate the employment, for example, of a public official that goes out and says that I don't like what the county is doing about X issue. I don't like that. That's a problem. But if you make comments about that directly relate to your job and the person that you're employed by, the elected or appointed official you're employed by, and those comments are detrimental to not the person, but they're detrimental to a policy that's been adopted by that person, you can be fired for that. You do not have a First Amendment right to speak your mind on a policy adopted by your superior, basically. That's the lead case on that is the Garcetti case.
I've read some stories, documents, results that provide employees of government positions more latitude, especially not in the workplace, but to express their personal opinions.
Yeah. It's permitted. It's permitted to express personal opinions, but there are limits to that if you're a public employee.
Right. Is that by location or?
It's by the nature of the comment. It's by nature of the content of the comment that you're making.
On policy.
Right.
Outside of the workplace.
Outside
You
or
can't disagree
inside.
with county policy outside of the workplace.
Or inside.
I'm
County,
sorry.
if it's detrimental to the county,
Right.
you can't.
What's an example?
The best example is a good example is from the Garcetti case. It would be okay. Gil Garcetti was the district attorney for Los Angeles County. He was the guy that prosecuted O.J. Simpson, which is just a nice little historical fact. It means nothing about this comment. But it'd be one thing to say, I think Gil Garcetti is a bad prosecutor. I'm permitted to say that, even if I'm employed by him. But I can't say, I think Gil Garcetti's decision to close this division is inappropriate when I'm one of his employees. And that's exactly the comment that was made. They found that was an issue that was directly related to his employment. And something that his employer had the right for him to support, basically, and not criticize.
Other well, obviously, other governments allow for more personal views. I'd like to look into it a little bit more, honestly, to see how, because we probably owe it to folks who would be affected by this.
Because the way that's written, right there, I have no problem with. That's basically the holding of the Garcetti case. That's basically
So that
the
was-
holding of the Garcetti case.
That was brilliant.
It was brilliant. So I have no problem with O as it's written.
Okay.
Just so you know what that means, what the background is.
Okay.
All right, okay. So, we need a break and try to get through definitions, or what's the temperature here?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, break would be good.
I think I'll tell you this. A lot of what comes next, also some of the stuff that I've done feeds into and addresses those issues as well. So
If we can get through definitions, which might mean I'd like to be out of here by 4 anyways. Does that make sense to you guys?
I would too.
Yep.
Okay. Very
We
good.
all would.
All right, well, let's have a recess.
Quick.
All right, we're going to get through, we said definitions, and then collapse. I got to remember some of this stuff. Okay, so we had definitions, and then the expanded use of commissioner. You had discussed the thought that these only applied to commissioners, but I think you'd started probably down here and didn't get the. I don't know if that's the best way to put that. That's the way they put it.
Usually definitions is at the beginning, I thought.
Yeah,
I don't know why
Usually,
they-
or is
It can be-
different?
it can be anywhere.
We can switch those though. That's no
It
big
can-
deal.
it can be-
Cut and
Outline
paste.
elected
switch it.
officials, appointees, and county employees.
Yes.
So that's a good idea.
I think a better thing to do would be to. I don't.
First off, on the moving that, yeah, let's move that to number 2, definitions, and move the other to number 3. It's so easy to do, and it does, you're right. In the normal scheme of things, that's the order we go. So, I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I generally don't like the kind of, that kind of thing, to use a word like commissioner in
Yeah.
all of the definitions and then
Yeah.
define it in another definition. And if you're going to do that, though, say commissioner means these things, not conflict of interest means the following. There should be a definition of what commissioner means, and it includes employees and all of that. But generally speaking, I don't like
The cleaner way would be to use a different word, whether it is
I would think
public, you can't use public employee, I don't think, because folks on commissions, park commissions and like that, unless they're paid, you run into some questions on if they're an actual public employee.
I would say,
Public official?
no,
No?
but I think the easier way to do it would be to say, just use the word person, and then say, a person for purposes of this policy is commissioner, elected official, employee, member of a public, constituent body, things like that.
Okay. We may come up with a better word than that.
Yeah, because I agree with you. If you say employee, you're going to get somebody that falls afoul of the policy that is a appointed member of a commission is going to say, I'm not an employee, it doesn't apply to me. Just say person or something like that.
As you say county official, you don't think of an employee.
Right.
We're gonna come up with a word for, maybe before we leave, but there's a better word. But let's just, for this to get, let's just go to one and get through that, that commissioner definition. A direct personal interest.
Yeah. And this is where
Yeah.
I would get into defining two types of conflicts of interest, as I said. The bright line, where there's a clear personal interest, something like that, a clear financial interest, however you want to describe it. And then those that are more appearance of impropriety, that are the grayer areas. Like I said, some of the automatic disqualification from voting, and others are the conditional disqualification from voting.
But here's where that category of people comes in that if it was just commissioners, you could, I mean, there's a deciding board here who would make that decision. You could just put it up and have a vote, But how do you do that for an employee or for?
It's more difficult.
It is.
But they have, their conflict of interests are generally more difficult to define anyways, because they don't result in a failure, in the inability to vote. They may result in the inability to hold the position. That's the real problem.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of steps before that
Like
can
yeah.
happen. Before they're going to get kicked out of office, basically.
No, I'm saying an employee that
Oh, I see what
that had a conflict that,
I'm sorry.
that, for example, would you want an employee of the county that was also an employee of someone who had a lucrative contract with the employee, or an owner of that business? It's that kind of thing that you're dealing with employees. That's where their conflict of interests come into play.
Are we better? I think at one point I had tried to separate them out into different categories, but that's not so easily done either. Well, let's assume that just for this stage that we're including everybody into one category, and this definition will work, and see if it does, if we can make progress that way, or if there's some flaw that's fatal in this, and you have to go back and change things.
Your next one, you copy and paste it, I think.
Oh, did we get it twice?
Mm-hmm.
All right. See, all you need is a good editor.
Thought we had one.
No.
Just delete number
So
2
just
then.
call.
So the third.
Oh, so everything's the same except personal and
A
financial.
direct financial.
So maybe we could just put financial in that first.
Personal or financial?
Okay.
Okay,
Does that work?
yeah. A direct personal or financial. Well, I don't know. And when you get about 3 sentences in, then sounds good though.
Yeah, this is exactly where I'm getting into. It says, because it says in the last sentence, although the facts of a given situation may not rise to a legally prohibited conflict of interest, these types of direct personal interest should be disclosed and reviewed prior to acting on a matter before the Board of Commissioners. And that's where, again, if you look at what I did on the first page, it talks about who the policy applies to, and then it defines bright line conflict of interest, and then what a material financial interest is, explicit exclusions, and then in the third page, paragraph 7 talks about the appearance of impropriety, and that's a disclosure only standard. So what I did goes a little bit beyond definitions, but it starts to say how the policy applies to those two classes of bright line disqualifications and appearance of impropriety disqualifications that are conditional.
So this is much more specific, what you
I wouldn't
provided.
say it's specific or better. I just say it organizes the same concepts that Alan is talking about. It just organizes them differently and maybe words them differently. What I'm saying is I don't have a problem with any of Alan's definitions per se. I would organize them in the way that I've presented because it creates a little bit of clarity. I think it creates clarity as to what things are mandatory disclosure or mandatory disqualifications and what are conditional disqualifications. And I think to me that's the important thing we want to do. And that's paragraph 1 says that. Alan's paragraph, what's now 2A1 does say that.
2A,
Yeah, definition A1 says a direct personal interest, and then like it says, it goes on to say the facts of a given situation may not rise to a legally prohibited conflict of interest, but these must be disclosed prior to acting in a manner before the Board of Commissioners. Paragraph 1A and 2A both say the same thing. But one, like Jen pointed out, one is directed to personal interests and the other is directed to financial interests. And the way that I've organized it, only a personal financial interest would result in an automatic disclosure as between those two. But in some cases, a personal interest, if it's a close enough relationship, would also be but some are and some aren't. Like I said, it's my high school friend that I haven't seen for 50 years that I should disclose, but doesn't necessarily disqualify.
Sure.
My wife, disclose and disqualify.
Sure. Other thoughts?
So this just enumerates or lists much more specifically. Is there part of this you want to incorporate
Like I said,
to clarify?
I just got this today, and I'm not disagreeing with the concept. I just haven't really thought through how that would fit into something a little bit more narrative, which is what
I've presented, I would say is more of a structure of how I think the policy should read. Alan's definitions are as good or frankly better than the ones that I have. They're more specific in a lot of instances. But for example, if you took the structure that I'm proposing, you wouldn't need that last sentence of the definition of a personal or financial interest because the structure implies all those distinctions. You wouldn't need that language.
I think the structure is easier to read.
Yeah.
That you have. It's easier to understand, read, and disseminate.
My thought on, so if we go with the red light and what are we going to call the other light? The gray light?
No, I call them direct disqualifications.
Yeah.
And conditional disqualifications.
I would say for the conditional or gray areas, that the county, the board itself should make that determination.
After disclosure.
After disclosure.
And that's what.
And if no one makes that motion, I would provide time, for folks to make a motion that so-and-so be disqualified. If no one does that, off we go.
Exactly.
If someone does that, gets a second, then the board would vote to make that final determination. It takes the gray area out of the hands of the person who may have the conflict.
Exactly.
And puts it in the hands of the county board as a whole.
Yep.
So,
And you like that structure at least.
yeah, that makes sense to me. Sure,
Right?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's what my structure tries to do. So I think we do need to discuss whether the definitions that you proposed are the same or different or should be incorporated. Language from yours should be incorporated in this structure, and I'm perfectly amenable to that. Because a lot of the stuff that you have does, could be just included in like in the bright line definition of a conflict of interest on what's paragraph 3, page 1 of mine. You could add a current business partner with the definition that you use under something that would be a bright line definition of a conflict of interest. And I think, you could just include that in one of those paragraphs. So what it tries to say in paragraph 3 is, again, it defines certain conflict of interest. It defines what a material financial interest is. And that's where you would put, a current business partner, would define a material financial interest. If one of your current business partners is seeking some benefit from the county board.
Under 7, under the appearance of impropriety, which says disclosure only standard.
Yes.
That leaves the impression that that the person with a possible conflict makes that decision. And I would say disclosure required possible vote or possible.
No, what I would do is for under paragraph 7, then have a provision in there that requires the vote, or requires an offering to have a vote.
Right.
That you've included in yours.
So disclosure required vote possible.
Because I did it, because you wanted to not have, and I ended up agreeing with you, you wanted to not have the panel to decide. I included I think, like paragraph 10 talks about a panel that decides whether that's a conflict. And what we would do is just write in the vote in paragraph 10.
I had in my paragraph 10?
No, my paragraph.
Okay.
10. We're just writing your provision to have a vote into that paragraph 10.
By paragraph 10, you mean the written determination of no conflict?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So that would be and this is where you might want to get, once we do this, we'd want to get perhaps a legal opinion. Because
absolutely.
One of the reasons that I did it this way is I do remember talking to legal counsel, and even though I disagreed, because I did it this way for many years, they suggested that may not be the best way to do it. So, but I still like your idea and want to propose it to them when we're finally concluded.
If we have something that is here and present and in front of us, probably not going to be able to get through written determinations and things like that. So it almost, we have to, I'm not sure how we do that. If we have a system by which things that come before the board, we can, because the difference to me is if there's an impending vote.
No, I agree.
That's a different, we have to handle that differently than if someone has a long-term conflict of interest, say, whatever that might be. Someone who's on the planning commission has accepted a job with the county planner or with the county planning consultant.
Yeah,
or something of that nature.
Yeah, that'd be a
Then
good
you've got time to go through the procedure. But if it just comes before us, we're not going to be, there's not going to be an investigation, there's not going to be anything like that. It's just, we're going to have to make a decision as a board, unless it's the red line or the obvious financial, in which case there's an
Perhaps-
obligation to recuse that.
Perhaps
individual.
what you could do is to start off with, if it's an immediate vote, to start off with, a determination by your peers as to whether or not it qualifies. But then if the employee or elected official is dissatisfied with that vote, they could request an opinion of council if it should be automatically or normally a disqualification. You could do that, but
I would just leave it, honestly, to right with the board itself, right, wrong, or indifferent. We've done it as a board, and if we got to go back and redo something for legal purposes, but and the bottom line is we got to conduct business and get done.
well,
and
the
finish it.
important thing I think is that you define the immediately disqualifying instances.
Yes.
As clearly and extensively as you can, that would capture all legal disqualifications. Because that's the thing that I think the lawyers would be concerned about, is that you adopt a policy where the board could inadvertently permit the voting or permit a clear legal conflict from proceeding. That's what the lawyers would be concerned about. And so if you define the bright line conflicts of interest well enough, then the lawyers would not be as concerned about, the gray areas being left up to the board to determine disqualification or not.
Everybody good with taking the definitions section and using that as a mechanism to separate possible conflicts of interest into those that automatically require recusal and those that the county board could vote on or could decide to pass on, in which case that person would be on the vote.
Yeah, what I could
Yeah,
do,
isn't that what we decided at the beginning?
kind of, yeah. But we
Yeah.
haven't decided on what those definitions are.
Okay.
What I could do is take Alan's definitions and incorporate as much of it as fit into the structure that I'm proposing, and have another draft for us to look at the next time that we meet.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe you and I can sit down and look through that, whatever.
I'll try to do
We'll
a
work
first
together.
draft, and then we'll look at it, make sure that you're satisfied, and we'll bring it as a new draft.
Well, that was what I call progress.
I would agree.
Let's have more of it.
Yes. Yes.
Do you want to talk about your next meeting date then, or are you just going to do it?
I didn't say it was that much progress.
Yeah, he's not ready to give up, Allison.
I'm just pulling up the calendar.
No, you're right. That is, let's just talk in generalities, if you will, on the concept of, because frankly, I made an assumption, the concept of an ethics panel or not an ethics panel. Yeah. I originally, the minutes reflect that we approved, so I can't take it out of there anymore. That I was pretty sold on an ethics panel. I thought it was nice to have the public involved, and I guess I had my 70s beanie cap on, and everybody would get along, and life would be good. But the more I received input from folks and jogged about it, sitting such a panel might prove difficult. So if you guys, if you please offer some thoughts and comments on having the Board of Commerce, having the Board of Commissioners be the appellate panel, if you will, in a lot of these conflicts and ethics, as opposed to an outside, a group that might include an outside group, or it might include just an inside committee of the commissioners. There's, I think Grand Traverse County uses a committee, a standing committee, only without outside influence. The city of Traverse City has a mostly citizen panel, I believe.
Yeah.
I think it should be the board.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't,
It got really messy.
yeah, the problem that I have with the panel ideas are basically, they're gonna need legal advice, because for the same reason that I just said a short while ago, you don't want to be in a situation where they can approve something that is a clear legal conflict of interest, but yet they, for some reason, somehow approve that person to vote in what's a clear legal conflict. And for counties too, there's the one thing we haven't really talked about too much is the Incompatible Offices Act. There's one that applies to all municipalities generally, and then there's another that applies to counties only. And one of those provisions of the one that applies to counties only is basically, and I know this is obvious, but I actually had an employee. It basically, you cannot be an employee of the county and a county commissioner. It says that very explicitly. And I had a county employee that thought that was not true. And he ran and successfully won a county commissioner race. And I had in my pocket his termination. But he, to his credit, on the day he was voted, resigned and blamed it on me that, the mean county attorney told me I had to resign. And
That is a strange place you came from.
it was a strange place. And it's a strange place that I went to as well.
Well, we try to uphold
Which was
that
not-
standard. I am not arguing that at all.
Which was Northport. Okay, that's.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. None of our districts.
There you go. There you go. But
They go right through that
we
one.
haven't really addressed that issue, but that's kind of the point of, you don't want an ethics committee that would say, oh yeah, it's fine, a county commissioner can be an elected official as well. And there is a threshold for that statute, and I can't remember if it's 20,000 population or 35,000. I know it. I'd have to look at the statute again, but there are two incompatibility of offices statutes that we'd have to
So
keep in mind.
we're good with that concept anyways.
That the county commission, and we can access a lawyer if we have to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or one will be assigned. We good? This a good time for Allison, pull out our calendar? You good with that, Allison?
Anything, we have a holiday coming up, can it be after June 8th, please?
What's
Is the holiday June 8th?
No, but
Oh, that's fine. No, that's fine.
a big holiday in the middle.
Okay.
What's
What's June 8th? Is that, what day of the week is that?
That's the day I come back.
Okay.
It's a Monday. It's the
I
day
get back
before.
in time for our meeting.
Oh, I see that. I'm seeing it now.
Okay. June 8th is a Monday. Meeting is the 9th, Wednesday, let me see. June 10th or 11th? Either one of those work for you guys?
The 10th is the Grayling midterm
right?
commissioner that I had RSVP'd to go.
Either one
The
of
gray
them.
line?
Yeah, there's a commissioner interim
Oh.
Midterm.
midterm.
Yeah, the class, whatever,
Mhm.
school.
I should go to that. I won't be unpacked yet, though. So that was like,
But I could do the 11th,
Let's do the 11th.
Election training
Oh.
downstairs for clerk's office.
so that doesn't.
All
on
day?
the 12th.
All morning, I think it goes from like 8:30 to 12:30 or 1 o'clock.
So we could maybe do like 2 o'clock on that day?
But does that push you
That's-
too tight?
That makes a pretty long day for you.
It's the state that's coming in.
Okay.
Well, we should,
So I don't
think we should do another day then.
Scheduled.
Yeah.
that could go, yeah.
That Friday or Monday, I'm just walking down the calendar here.
Friday? I'm open
Friday the 12th,
Friday the 12th,
I'm open.
it worked for me in the afternoon.
1 o'clock?
We do 1:30?
Okay.
You gonna finish lunch then?
Exactly.
Okay.
Is that open, Allison?
It is.
Let's just make it 2 o'clock rather than have a 30 on it. If that works for you guys?
Should, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So I don't think we have anything else on the agenda. I don't see any public out there to comment. Jen has been faithfully there, keeping us in the guardrails, which I do appreciate.
Do you have any comments?
That's fine, thank you.
And, okay, so, boom. If I had a gavel, by the way, you got the gavel.
Want to use it?
Oh,
Go for it.
Oh, go for it.
Trust me with this. Thank you.